Hey everyone, it's Felicity from the Kristin Chronicles. So here's the thing about the mental health care system. It's set up to help people like me, and doctors of all varieties are fighting to the best of their ability. They are showing up in every way they know how. The problem is that they are still coming from a place that's only addressing the symptoms. And if the doctors are only addressing the surface level things and people like me don't know what's happening beneath the surface, where is the hope? Where is the healing? It doesn't exist right now. Not on a frequent enough basis for us to depend on the system. It helps some people sometimes, and that's awesome. I'm really happy for those people who can be helped by it. But people like me should be able to be helped from it too. And so moving forward, it's important to get creative and flexible as we address these things and seek true healing and seek to establish a system that's going to work most of the time, if not all of the time, not just some of the time. We all are worthy of healing, and we need to help each other get there. And so moving forward, it's important to address what's happening beneath the surface. For scientists and doctors, it will be to look at the science of things and to study the neurobiology of things and to study brain activity and things like that and actually offer treatments that address those things, not just the symptoms from those things. And for people like me, living with a mental health battle, I live with PTSD and DID, dissociative identity disorder. It's important that we dive deep into what's happening beneath the surface. And it can get scary and it can get uncomfortable. But that's the only place that we can actually find healing. Otherwise, we're just addressing the symptoms and it's never actually resolved, and it's always going to come back at some point in life, generally when there's any kind of stress beyond our control, which is pretty frequently because that's life. And so if we're ever going to find that hope for healing and actually reclaiming power over our lives and not just pieces of it or not just some of it some of the time, we have to look at it from a whole new perspective. We have to address things and talk about things that haven't been talked about before. We have to study things that haven't been studied before. We have to ask questions that haven't been asked or answered before. We have to explore things that are not already explored and known about. And then we can come to a place where we have a greater understanding of what's happening and therefore a greater ability to show up through it and actually create opportunities for true healing. I was in the mental health care system for 10 years and I only obtained healing when I stepped away from it and created a path that was totally different from everything I've ever done before. And through that, I've gained a lot of healing really quickly. And there's no reason that people shouldn't experience this all the time. When you seek healing, this should be the experience. And so anything I can do to help create those opportunities for more people moving forward is a big focus of my life now and for the next 10 plus years. I know, probably the rest of my life, but I don't want to speak on behalf of 20 years in the future me. But when we are looking at only the symptoms and we are only trying to find an answer that addresses the symptoms and we're not caring about anything beyond that, we're doing ourselves a grave disservice and we're missing out on healing that is absolutely possible. Absolutely possible. And for people in the mental health care system, working in the system, I mean, I feel like, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, doctors and therapists and psychiatrists of the world, but I feel like you guys would experience a greater time at your job if you had more tools to help more people. I feel like you would be proud of showing up a little bit more than you might be right now. And I feel like the depth of fulfillment would just keep expanding. Like maybe you're content with where you are now, but what if that contentment could grow into a greater depth of fulfillment than you've ever experienced? Wouldn't you want that? I know I would if I was in that field. And for people like me struggling just to get by day to day, don't we want the tools to reclaim our life? Don't we want the tools to understand our life experience and transform it as it unfolds? Isn't that what we deeply desire? Addressing the symptoms happens when we're living only from fear. But when we can choose love and choose to love ourselves and our potential and the people around us, and choose to want to be our best self and choose to want to help other people be their best selves, addressing only the symptoms just doesn't cut it anymore. And then we grow the courage to face the unknown and create true healing. And when we can do that and step in to that potential, everything gets better. Food tastes better, colors are brighter, presence with loved ones there's greater connection, greater fulfillment. We break through the barriers of our consciousness when we choose to step out in love and courage and not pay attention to fear all of the time. Addressing the symptoms happen when we're only listening to fear and we're just trying to just get some grasp on things and just get some level of control. And I get it, because I want that too. I want that too. I do. I want that too. I want to be in control. But the more I fight to be in control, the more power I lose, and the more powerless I feel, and the more hopeless I feel. That's not where our power is. Control isn't where our power is. But we do have power, and we get to harness that. We get to embrace that. And we don't get to embrace and harness that power when we're only looking at the surface problems and only ever talking about and addressing the symptoms. I believe the mental health care system is a great thing, but I believe it still has a lot of evolving to do. And I believe a big reason that I went through all of the intensively painful experiences that I did is to help that evolution of the mental health care system and of the human consciousness as we understand it more and learn to love ourselves better and deeper and more wholly, and learn to show up for other people deeper and better and more wholly, and just regain this capacity to love the human experience. We're kind of losing that ability as a society. We're busy sustaining these lives and we forget to do the living piece of things. And when we try to do the living, keeping up with our lives is so distracting, we don't actually have presence in the living. And then we start to feel anxious, and we start to feel depressed, and we start to feel unfulfilled. And we wonder where we went wrong. We didn't go wrong anywhere. We just have to establish more presence with where we are. And the more we can understand our consciousness, the more we can understand the neurobiology of our experiences, the more we as a society can show up for people struggling, the more we can evolve and grow into our potential as a human species. And individual people can experience a greater depth of peace, joy, and fulfillment than ever before. And I think it all kind of starts, at least for my end of things, with where I have an ability to make a difference in my life, with the mental health care system and expanding the knowledge we have of the human psyche and of the human consciousness, and learning to show up in a way that creates real healing and not just temporary relief of surface problems. The surface problems aren't the real problems. Those are just what we see of the core problem. We have to go a little deeper. And when we do, when we can create new healing opportunities. The healing I've gained has been through experiences that were honestly more positive than my experiences in the mental health care system. And there's no reason that the mental health care system doesn't have the power to create these healing experiences for people like me all over the world. Knowledge is power, and the more we have awareness and knowledge of the human consciousness and of the mind-body connection and of the way thoughts and emotions are generated and the way that different survival aspects kind of manifest in the unconscious and then the subconscious and then the conscious awareness, the more we understand these things, the more power we have as we show up for ourselves and for other people. Whether it's gaining power over our own mental health or whether it's showing up in our job as a mental health care professional, we have this power that we can harness, and we can make a bigger difference than we have the power to right now. It is so beautiful and so exciting. And the power we have now is only going to keep growing as our knowledge and awareness grows. We get to start a conversation all over the world talking about mental health and talking about how to grow as we move forward the human evolution of consciousness. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is Felicity from the Kristin Chronicles. The Kristin collective consciousness is made of many parts, and only when I understood the evolutionary neurobiology of my consciousness did I actually gain an ability to really appreciate all my different parts and learn to establish presence in a way that most people never do. I have to do it to survive. Other people don't, and so they don't have the opportunities that I've been forced to have. But if we could create those opportunities to establish that renewed presence, the depth of our life experience would grow deeper than ever before. And all the little corners of our life experience that feel like just a normal part of the misery of being a person would evaporate. We could start to create a heaven on earth. Have a beautiful and blessed day, my brave, beautiful warrior soul friends. In light and love. Namaste.